So, speaking of a band that's maybe a little more unique, I want to talk about the new album from Motionless in White called Scoring the End of the World.
The bodies hit the dance floor to this heartbreak beat. I feel like somebody's watching me. Feels like everybody's watching me.
I'm very curious to see what we all think about this.
I am as well, actually.
Justin, I want to hear your thoughts first on this new Motionless in White album.
Motionless go burr.
Yeah.
You mean
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, they go blah.
We appreciate
Honestly-
your contributions, Justin.
Honestly, Justin, I'm gonna feel the same way. I think I'm gonna leave this discussion up to Jake and Jacob for the most part because I really Disguise is in my top 10 of 2019, and I think that was less a testament to Motionless in White, more to the fact that not a lot of good stuff came out in 2019, in my opinion.
Excuse me.
Well, at least for my personal taste at the time.
How dare?
I still am not really a fan of what this band is doing. I don't like Chris Motionless's vocals, I think is what it comes down to, and like the lyrical content. It's very much Ice Nine Killsy for me, where there is definitely a theme or motif, and I can't get into it. I still love Slaughterhouse. I think it's the best song in this album by far, and Werewolf is a close second. I love the Somebody's Watching Me callback and just the 80s vibe of it. It's really good. I'm going to be honest, the rest of this album was very, very forgettable for me, besides Red, White, and Boom, because it was so fucking bad. I think that may be the worst song I've heard all year, and it's not particularly close. That song is terrible.
Okay.
Red, White, Boom!
I'm
Shut up.
kind
Like...
of in the same boat as you, Derek.
Okay.
Because I think there's moments on this album where it is amazing. And then there's other moments where it's absolute utter garbage.
I don't think there's a lot of garbage on this album. I just think there's a lot of forgettable on this album.
For me, they go
Red,
hand in
Red,
hand.
White, and Boom is utter garbage.
That's garbage. That's garbage. And you know what?
That's a losing battle for me, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I think to me, and this feels bad because I feel like objectively this band has a lot of talent, and a lot of my gripes with it are subjective in terms of my own personal taste. But when you've got a band that's doing something where nobody sounds like Motionless in White, even if, there's in the same way it's like, oh, Bad Omen sounds like Bring Me, oh, Motionless in White sounds like Breaking Benjamin type of thing on a lot of songs, that for the most part this band is doing something really, really creative. And nobody else besides, maybe Ice Nine Kills, if you even want to count that, sounds like Motionless in White. I mean, yeah, they're loosely for me.
They've almost fully dropped the horror theme at this point.
Yeah.
There's songs like Werewolf, I guess, but
yeah, I don't feel
way more loose now.
I don't feel like anybody really sounds like Motionless in White, and for a band to have a distinct sound, like obviously you hear a Motionless in White song, you go, that is Motionless in White. For a band to have that distinction and to put out an album where so many songs feel so forgettable, that feels bad. Like, it feels wrong to have something that's a unique artist that nobody else sounds like, and then all their songs are just kind of like, meh. They're there.
Almost 2.5 million on Spotify too.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Or maybe we're just not on the wavelength for whatever reason.
Yeah,
clearly it's working for a wide range of people.
I've determined this band just isn't for me, in the same way that I feel like Ice Nine Kills isn't. I get maybe one or two songs off of every album, and it's just not for me. I can appreciate it, but it's not for me. And I think this is an even stronger case of that than Ice Nine Kills, because at least with Ice Nine Kills, I feel like everything for me is listenable. Whereas with this, I found myself wanting to skip halfway through a lot of these songs just because I'm bored, which is not how I want to feel about an album,
I will say though. Go ahead.
Okay, I think this album does one thing better than Disguise.
Which is
Broadcasting from Beyond the Grave, Corpse Nation is so much better than Death Incorporated. I don't know when the last time you guys went back to Death Incorporated is, but
I don't know why. But
if I need to remind you, Death Incorporated chorus is "We are the weirdos in your stereo disco freak show Death Incorporated."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Shakespeare? Is that you?
And another lyric from Death Incorporated is, "You're not fucking with us, we're not fucking with you, so you can fuck yourself in your puppet suit."
Wow.
Why did
So
they
good
for that song?
That's what I'm saying, bro. A redemption arc, maybe.
Corpse Nation is not my favorite song on this album, but it is not the worst song I heard in all of 2019. So therefore,
yeah, Red, White, and Boom is 2 songs later.
Yeah.
I said it's a losing battle. I don't think it's terrible.
It's okay.
I still have that song in
right.
my playlist. I have every song except for 2 in my playlist, and the 2 are Slaughterhouse and Cause of Death.
I wish we had face cams for this so you could see the face I made when you said it was in your playlist. I like visibly cringed. Like my brow furrowed and I would just come in and I'm like,
Sometimes a little bit of cringe is okay.
What I've saved is Meltdown, Werewolf, Slaughterhouse, Cyberhex, and Scoring the End of the World. That's all I've saved.
I think this album gets off to a really good start. 4 tracks in, I'm thinking Motionless in White may be on their way to another top 10 contender. And then Slaughterhouse comes in, and I already knew I didn't really like Slaughterhouse. And then it's followed by Masterpiece, which I also didn't really care for. Like, it's fine. And then Cause of Death is just way too driven by the unclean vocals, and in Disguise, I was able to tolerate the unclean vocals and eventually grew to really enjoy them on songs like Thoughts and Prayers and Undead Ahead 2. Cause of Death is just... something isn't working for me there with the harsh vocals. Then you get another 2 solid songs. I think We Become the Night and Burned at Both Ends 2 are both solid. Burned at Both Ends 2 has a surprisingly good breakdown, but didn't really stick with me throughout the month. Broadcasting from the Grave, Corpse Nation. It's a step up from Death Incorporated, so brownie points, I guess. And then Cyberhex is my favorite song on here, but Red, White, and Boom and Scoring the End of the World are it's just such an underwhelming way to end the album, in my opinion, where you get like a really boring slump of 3 songs in the middle and 2 really just forgettable songs at the end. That it's unfortunate because I think there's a lot of good songs on here, but the bad somewhat outweighs the good here. It drags it down for me.
So I will say, I feel like I've done nothing but shit on Motionless in White all reviews, so I do want to say that I think that one thing that they do really well is a chorus. I think that they have an absolute, probably one of the best, maybe, I don't want to say pop sensibility, but they have a really good idea of how to craft a hook. I think especially my favorite thing that Motionless in White does is where they take a phrase and interject it without instruments, either before a final chorus or during a final chorus. Like the Eye for an Eye in the last chorus of Slaughterhouse, or even going back to Disguise, Holding On to Smoke, where he like screams out, "I define who I become." I feel like that's, if I had to think about like what is the trademark Motionless in White thing, besides like maybe the Blay, whatever, up for grabs with Architects, that to me is something that they've got down pat and something I really enjoy. I think most of the choruses on here are honestly really strong. I just don't think they're saved by the rest of the material on here. That every song on here at some point or another, except for Red, White, and Boom, has a very distinctive strong point to it. I just don't think the rest of the song lives up to it. So I'm left feeling very indifferent and to an extent negative about the album. Just because not that I had expectations, because I'm not a Motionless in White fan, but I still was hoping for more from this. And for me, I didn't get it. But like Jake said, I just don't think I'm on the wave. I'm not on the Motionless in White wave, and this album didn't convince me to hop on it.
I got on it with Disguise. That was the first full Motionless in White album I heard, and I'm like clinging on by a finger right now.
You're holding on to smoke?
Yeah, basically. It's a shame because I thought this really had potential, especially with Cyberhex as the lead single.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I thought this had
high hopes when
potential.
I heard that.
Like Disguise was an amazing lead single. Cyberhex was similarly shaping up to be a strong start to the album cycle, and it just something's not working with me here. Maybe it's June syndrome of too much fucking music released, but this ain't doing it for me, unfortunately.
I gotta say, one of my favorite lines is in Meltdown. It's on tonight's series finale, we're all gonna fucking die.
Yeah, that was good. Meltdown is my second favorite track on here.
It is a really good opener, I will say.
Yeah.
I also think for a very brief moment in time, Meltdown had my favorite breakdown of the year, or in contention for it. Because, again, I feel like I've been saying it a lot this month, but generally a lot of breakdowns from this year have not been terribly impressive to me. But June delivered a lot of them. A lot of really good ones, Meltdown included.
What do you think of the closer?
It's there. It's okay.
It's very much there, and it's very much okay.
I wish Mick Gordon did more.
Yeah. I think my comparison to or for Mick Gordon features are that Monuments album from earlier this year. Another one of Andy Sizek's projects, where you can really hear the Mick Gordon influence on those songs, and then you get to this one, and it's not nearly as prominent. I don't feel
I honestly couldn't tell first time I heard it.
Yeah, it didn't strike me, and to have a name like that on a closer, no less, and then to have it fall kind of flat leaves a very sour taste in my mouth for the end of the album, especially after the song that preceded it. I know it feels like we're beating a dead horse, but like with Red, White, and Boom, obviously I've made it very clear it wasn't my favorite song by any stretch. And so I end the album with that, and then a Mick Gordon feature that fell flat, and I'm just kind of like, it doesn't make me want to go back and revisit this, And truth be told, I haven't. I've listened to the album once through and a couple songs from it, and I've got my 2 songs, and I don't feel I need to go back. Which may be also June syndrome. But
I think there's definitely an element of June syndrome for everything in this month,
yeah,
to be honest.
No, for sure.
Even for some of my favorite songs, like I probably didn't listen to Misery enough when that Memphis May Fire album came out. Because I was just listening to The Fight Within on repeat.
Yeah. There are a lot of albums this month, including one that I'm very upset about that I kind of just put to the wayside because of the volume of stuff that dropped. We'll get there. But